Alright guys, so we are going to talk about completing the square method. This is going to be the last method that we're going to learn about for solving quadratics. If you don't got a piece of paper out, go ahead and get one out now, so that way you can write these notes down. So, this is going to be our first equation, x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So we still here got an x squared and x constant equals 0. Alright, so the way the completing the square method works is this number here, our constant, we actually don't want it here on this left hand side. We want to go ahead and move it over here to the right hand side. So only way to do that is to do the opposite sign by subtracting 8 to both sides. That leaves you with x squared plus 6x equals negative 8. Now notice here I left this space. I am doing this for a reason. The reason is I want to get a perfect square here on this left-hand side. Now the way that I'm going to do that is I need to get another number here. And the number that I'm going to get is going to be based off of my b term. Okay? Whatever my b value is, which in this case it's 6, I'm going to do that divided by 2. Now after I do that, that gives me 3. Now that's not the number that I'm going to put here. The number that I'm going to put here is this number here, but when it's squared. So 3 squared, which is 9. And that number there is what goes in this empty space. So I'm going to put plus 9. Now what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So if I put a plus 9 here, I will have to put a plus 9 over here. Alright. Now, I said we did this so that way I could get a perfect square on this side. So what that means is if I factor this, the two factors should be exactly the same. So in this case, it's going to be x plus 3 and x plus 3. Alright, if you put that into your box, put these on the outside, you would see that it ends up giving you x squared plus 6x plus 9. Also notice that this same number that I got here is also the same number I got here. Okay? That is something that you can use to your advantage, that whatever this number is, that's going to be the same number that you can put right here. Alright, so I got this on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and add these two numbers up. Negative 8 plus 9 is 1. Now again, I said this is a perfect square here because this times this gives me that. So if that's the case, then I can take that x plus 3, and since my two factors are exactly the same, I can go ahead and put that squared there. Equals 1. Now we kind of go back to our square root method and solve this using the same techniques we did back on the square root method. I see the squared. The only thing that gets rid of that squared is to take the square root. The square root and the squared cancel, leaving me with x plus 3. Then at this point, remember, always when you take the square root of a number, you're going to get a positive and a negative. So the square root of 1 is 1, but it's a positive and a negative. That is important to always remember, that you will always get two numbers here when you take the square root, the positive and negative. Alright, last step is to go ahead and separate this into our two equations and solve for my x values. So, I have x plus 3 equals positive 1, and x plus 3 equals negative 1. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3 to both sides, and that gives me x equals negative 2 on this side for one answer. And then for the other one, I do minus 3, x equals -1 minus 3, which is -4, giving me my second answer. And that's it, guys. So go ahead, pause the video if you need to. That way you can go ahead and make sure you have all these notes written down. We will continue on to a second example. All right. So this time I'm going to have x squared plus 12x plus 32 equals 0. Alright, go ahead and pause the video. Try this on your own. Try the completing the square method. See if you can get the right answer. And then resume the video to see if you do it correctly. Sorry guys, was opening up a new marker there. Alright, let's go ahead and solve this out. So let's move our 32 over to the right hand side. And I get x squared plus 12x. I'm going to leave my space equals -32. With my 12, that's my b term, I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 2. That gives me 6. And then 6 squared gives me 36. So that right there is my number that goes there. And here, because we got to have it, when it goes to one side, got to go to the other. So now I have x squared plus 12x plus 36 equals -32 plus 36. Alright. Now this right here, we can go ahead and factor it, and it's going to give me x plus 6. Again, I can see the number right here is the same number. That's the way I'm getting that number so quickly. X plus 6 equals -32 plus 36 gives me 4. Since these are the same two factors, I can go ahead and combine them to give me x plus 6 squared equals 4. Now I can go back to square root method and finish solving this. Square root both sides. That gives me x plus 6 equals positive and -2, because I have to have two numbers, positive and negative, there when I take the square root. So x plus 6 equals +2. I subtract 6 to both sides, and I get x equals -4. That's my first answer. For my second answer, I'm going to have x plus 6 equals -2. This time I subtract 6 from -2, and this gives me -8. That's my final answer. And there you go, guys.